An immaculate inning. 9-pitch, 3 strikeout. Rarely happens in baseball.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the next episode of the Immaculate Inning. Drew here with Shane, as always. We're happy to be back this Wednesday evening. You know, not a lot has happened in the baseball world. Well, a lot has happened, but not pretty predictable stuff, I feel like. So yeah, last all the NLDS and the ALDS series finished up last week. We touched on most of those. A quick note, the Phillies did finish their series against the Braves. They won 3-1, so they handily defeated the Braves. It wasn't ever really close at all. It really felt like the Braves were overmatched. Spencer Strider pitched game 4. He only allowed 3 runs, 3 solo homers, 2 to Nicholas Castellanos. He didn't have his slider. Just it was not there. Every pitch was non-competitive from him. He was basically a one-pitch pitcher for the whole game. So it's actually kind of impressive that he only allowed 3 runs. But I think he walked something like 3 or 4 guys, had 6 or 7 hits. Just really wasn't himself, and the Braves really never had a shot. So I don't know if you have any comments about that, Shane, but I'd love to hear them.
Yeah, it really seemed like for as good as the Braves are, from the get-go, they were never really in this series. That's the feeling that I had. And we'll get more into it. That's the feeling that the Diamondbacks really kind of had the same feeling. I think, the difference maker really is the Philadelphia pitching. We kind of covered it. I mean, we talked a little bit about this obviously before the podcast, but Aaron Nola has been insane. Zach Wheeler, these guys, despite maybe the rough seasons that really Nola had, Wheeler had a good year. Nola did not have a Nola year, and he comes out in the postseason. These guys form. These guys are clutch. They got ice in their veins, and I really think it is a real thing. These guys show up when the. I mean, even on the hitter side, Harper, Trey Turner, who obviously has been hot lately, but didn't have the start the year he wanted. Bryce Harper not playing the whole year. Schwarber, these guys. This is a lineup of veteran guys know how to play in the postseason, and so I really think it showed. And even when you think about it, that 2021 Braves team that won it all, some of the central pieces are not there anymore. So it's you gotta understand. I think it is a little bit they were the best team, but even you look at their best player, Ronald Acuna wasn't playing during that 2021 championship. So I think this is really a younger Braves team that people acknowledge. When you have Austin Riley, Ronnie, Michael Harris Jr., all these guys that weren't on that team. I think this was really a wake up call for them. And we all know that they'll be back, but the Phillies, I think, are just. I mean, the experience, the momentum really showed. They kicked the Braves' butts. I mean, it was bad. The one game that the Braves won was. I don't want to say lucky, but I mean it was squeaked out. So
yeah,
that's it. The Phillies are dominant right now, and I think same could be argued for the Rangers. The Rangers have not lost a ball game in the playoffs, which is ridiculous.
They have not.
So, yeah, I mean, unless you have any more comments, I say we just get the ball rolling with the NLCS.
Yeah, I mean, just the only thing the big difference in that series was the pitching for Philadelphia, and I really think that wild card allowed them to kind of get Wheeler and Nola really in the right headspace to pitch in the playoffs. So, I expect the Braves to be back. I've got some theories on maybe some off-season changes that they may make. We won't talk about that today. Some may shock a lot of people, but yeah, I mean, we can just roll right into this next series. Philadelphia is just dominating. They are dominating the Arizona Diamondbacks right now. They're up 2-0 with the games going to Arizona. That'll be tomorrow. First pitch is at 5:07 for that game. But, I mean, they've just been on another level. They won the first game 5-3. They put I believe Zach Gallen gave up 3 runs, I believe. And then they kind of fought back in the bullpen. Phillies bullpen was able to kind of close things out there. And then game 2 was just over from pretty much the start. 10-0. Phillies. I believe before that game, didn't Miro Kelly, who started the game for Arizona, didn't he like say something about the bank or something like that? That there's no way it'll be as loud as it was in the wild card or something like that.
Yeah, he said something along the lines, and I can find the exact quote that basically he can handle it. Uh,
Uh
he can't handle it, but
well,
it is loud.
it is loud. It I believe that they brought the thing that measures like decibels, and I think it got up to 111 at one point during the game.
That was the game before, actually. That was the
Oh, the game before.
Castellanos
Okay, okay.
or the Bryce Harper home run game
Yes.
one.
But to Merrill Kelly's credit, he was not abysmal. Definitely not the Merrill Kelly that we've been accustomed to seeing the past couple weeks. But went 5 2/3, gave up 4 runs. The 3 walks is pretty glaring, but 6 Ks and only 3 hits. So if he can cut down on those walks, he did give up 3 home runs. So if he can kind of cut down on the long ball and the walks, like he has a productive outing. The bullpen really just kind of shot him in the foot. Just really killed him last night. But yeah, not
Yeah,
not what you want out of your number 2 guy. So
I was gonna make a couple comments. First of all, Mantiply was first out of the bullpen for him. The guy that they've really been leaning on finished a third of an inning, giving up 3 or 4 runs. Like that's
yeah.
not what you want to see, obviously, in this situation. And just coming from a baseball perspective, like outside of stats, and I'd love to hear your perspective on this, Drew. I watched both these games and both these starts because I really do love Gallen. I mean, I love all 4 of these pitchers. Gallen, Wheeler, Nola, and Kelly are all
Hmm.
really fun to watch. All right-handers that I really do look up to as a person coming up in the sport. Um, Kelly and Gallen, they just made poor mistakes, and
Yep.
that's this. My dad and people always coming up the sport always told me is like make good mistakes. You always hear that. So what does that mean? Like make your mistake out of the zone, make your mistake running a guy off the plate kind of thing. Their mistakes were right down the middle, and the Phillies did not miss it. A team that hot. So I mean, I wanted to ask you this question. I saw the Diamondbacks pitching coach come out a couple times and just letting it eat. Just seemed like they was chewing them out. Like you have Brandon Fats, I think. I don't know how to say his name. How do you tell him to approach these Phillies hitters right now? I mean, with the stuff he has.
I'm not super in touch with his stuff. I'm not exactly sure what pitches he throws, but a young guy like that who's seen some success in the postseason. I won't say that he's been excellent or great, but he's seen some success and turned in some quality innings. Um, I think what I tell him, from a player perspective, and this is kind of how I played my game. Obviously, like I don't play at the next level. I did not have enough talent to continue. I love the game and all that, but this is kind of how I approached pitching and stuff like that. Like you can't be scared. You cannot go into that game and be like, oh, the Phillies are hot. Like you have to attack these batters. And this is something that we'll get into a little bit later. The Jordan Montgomery start. Looking at the way that he attacked Yordan Alvarez, he went at him with his best stuff. So if you're Brandon Fat, you have to know what your best pitches are, where your best spots are, where you're limiting the least amount of damage, and you've got to attack these hitters. You have to understand their strengths and the weaknesses, understand, all right, if I'm going to be, going against Harper and I'm going to go high and in, I have to miss high and in. If I hit him, that's okay. He just gets first base. I cannot miss any more over the heart of the plate. Same thing with the Bryce Elder start. First 2 innings, really good. Came all apart in the third inning because he started missing middle, leaving stuff over the middle of the plate. You've got to attack these guys and be comfortable with, missing outside, missing balls. You cannot be afraid to walk these guys and try to throw the perfect pitch. Because if you're trying to throw the perfect pitch, you're gonna leave something over the heart of the plate, and it's gonna get crushed. Zach Gallen, Miro Kelly. No offense to them, they're great pitchers, but they haven't been in like this big playoff high pressure, environment, specifically at the bank. And I think the energy, it got to them a little bit. I think that they were a little amped up. They're a little excited, that they were probably extremely nervous facing a lineup like this, an atmosphere like that. I mean, I'm sure you've seen the videos of the guy who was relentlessly heckling Spencer Strider before his start in the bank, you know? So, I mean, they're getting heckled, they're getting yelled at, people are screaming, it's loud, it's everything. So, you've got to be able to harness that to an extent to be able to kind of harness that adrenaline to help your performance, but you can't let the moment overtake you and become overly excited or overly nervous and try to kind of wishy-washy paint the corners, paint them around, you know. So if I'm Brandon Fott, you know, I get locked in. I'm thinking I'm watching film all day today. I'm watching film all day tomorrow. I'm getting locked in. I'm understanding these hitters. I'm watching their tendencies. I'm understanding that all right, these guys, they're big swing. They're big swing guys. They're gonna want to go yard. They're gonna want to do damage. All right. Now I need to be if I'm gonna be throwing off speed, it needs to be a perfect pitch or off the plate. I cannot be starting it over like middle, cannot be leaving it over the outer third, inner third, whatnot. It's got to be down and it's got to be basically bottom edge. You know, so if I'm thinking about the strike zone like this, and I'm throwing to Bryce Harper right here, lefty. So if he's going to be coming through, and I'm pitching to him, I cannot be missing inner third, specifically lower inner third. I've got to be, if I'm going to throw a high fastball, it's got to be above the zone, right on that top corner, really making him think about it and preventing him to getting his hands through the ball. I'm going to want to try to jam him. If I'm going to be throwing all speed, which Brandon is a righty, I believe, you know, so I'm going to want, I do not want to be having my if I'm throwing a curveball or slider, I don't want it starting on the outside corner, breaking over the middle because Bryce is just gonna stay through that ball and is just gonna drive it. I've got to be starting it either middle, and basically wipe out slider on the back foot, or I've got to be starting it outside where it's going to come and try to nick that outside corner to keep him off balance, make him throw the hands at it, maybe some weak contact. Because if you're going to be, if to win this game, he's got to be able to limit hard contact and got to be able to keep these guys. He cannot allow them to get in this groove, and that's what every single one of these pitchers that they face throughout the wild card and divisional series and so far through the championship series is these guys have been allowed to get in a groove. They've been able to get the pitches that they like and they do damage. This team does not miss the baseball. When they are up there, if you throw them anything good to hit, they're gonna crush it. They're gonna do damage. I mean, this is something, you know, that I've been thinking about a lot is kind of how Dave Dombrowski has built this lineup. I mean, in reality, like he has kind of gotten lucky with the deals that he's been able to make, the trades that he's been able to make. Like these guys on paper are good, solid players, but they just somehow rise to the occasion in the postseason. So yeah, I mean, it's super impressive what Dave has been able to do. So welcome back, Shane. Um, I was giving sort of the outline of how I would approach kind of these hitters, specifically Bryce Harper. The short of it all is like I can't be scared. I've got to be able to attack these hitters, but I've also got to understand if I'm going to miss, I've got to miss out of the zone. I can't leave anything middle, inner third, you know. But you know, he's just got to live within himself, understand his strengths and weaknesses, understand the hitter's strengths and weaknesses, and just go out there and pitch with confidence, you know, because once you lose that, then you know you're gonna start. It really is all downhill from there. So pitch with confidence, understand your stuff, and kind of you know, make sure you're not leaving anything over the middle. That's kind of what I was going through, and then I had started going into how Dave Dombrowski has kind of built this Phillies lineup. If you have any thoughts about that.
Yeah.
Looks.
I hope you can hear me, Drew. Has a little bit
Yep.
of technical difficulties. Um, so I mean, it's at this point, it's kind of all theoretical. So I really don't know how much of a chance the Diamondbacks stand. Um, but it's just almost an overmatched, like just like we saw. I mean, just like we saw in the Phillies Braves. Um,
Yeah, I mean these the Diamondbacks really do look overpowered, and And it'll be interesting to see kind of how they approach this next game. It's kind of almost a must-win game for them to even have a shot to continue in the series. It'll be at home, so that'll be good. They've had a good environment, but I think the Ranger Suarez will be on the mound, so I think that if I'm the Diamondbacks, I really want to try to put some runs on the board early and try to get ahead and give Brandon Pfaadt some room to work with, just because of how lethal this Phillies lineup is. So if I'm able to get Ranger Suarez, put some runs on the board, and get him out of the game early, get into that bullpen and kind of make Rob Thompson really think about matchups and who he wants to go win, and when he decides to use his high leverage relievers, because we've seen in the Braves series, Rob Thompson, he is not afraid to use his high leverage guys early in the game. He brought in Dominguez and Kimbrel in game one early on in the game to kind of eliminate this Braves lineup and eliminate some of their top hitters. So he has a lot of confidence in the bullpen, and I've got to put some pressure if I'm the Diamondbacks on that bullpen. I can't allow Ranger Suarez to kind of cruise to 5 or 6 scoreless innings, 1-run innings. Really got to put pressure on them. I think they're going to be aggressive on the base paths if they get runners on, and really try to create something here. So Shane is having some more technical difficulties, it appears. So I mean, I don't have too much. Do you have anything else that you would like to say, Shane? Hmm. It seems that his Wi-Fi is really acting up tonight. Yeah, so I don't have too much more to say on that series. I feel like I've kind of said my piece. If Shane hops back in, he can kind of give some thoughts, and we can go ahead and move on to, I guess, the Rangers and Astros. So the Rangers have dominated this series. In turn from the get go. I mean, they hopped on Justin Verlander early, put up some runs early on in the game. Really looked really good. Jordan Montgomery had an amazing start. I'll kind of get into that in a minute from a pitcher standpoint. Really impressive what he was able to do. But yeah, so they jumped ahead and they were able to. Let me see. Let me find the final score. Excuse me for that game. So that would have been Sunday. So they end up winning that game 2-0. The bullpen really came in clutch after Jordan Montgomery, who has been on fire this postseason, went 6 1/3, 5 hits, 1 walk, 6 Ks. Super impressive. Chapman pitched a scoreless 8th inning. A little bit scary, though. Did allow Altuve to get on base, and then Alex Bregman, who's been struggling this postseason, but I don't expect that to continue. He's such a great hitter and really stays within himself and really drives the ball well. He kind of is able to pull himself out of these slumps rather quickly. So if this series drags on any longer, I would be worried to watch out for him, because he is one guy who's been struggling so far. But puts a drive into deep left center, deepest part of the park in Minute Maid there. And Evan Carter, the rookie, makes an incredible jumping catch along the wall, throws it in. Jose Altuve, who had rounded second before the catch was made, went back to first, did not retag second, which is something you have to do, is when you're going back to, if you've passed a bag, going back to the previous bag, you have to retouch. Reviewed it, called him out, double play. Chapman was able to get out of the inning, and then they brought in the closer, who has been lights out for them. And let's see if I can pronounce his name, Jose Leclerc. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce that, but he has been lights out for them this postseason. Let's see if I can find his numbers really fast for you guys. He's been in the big league since 2016, so an older guy, but has really been locked down. In 7 1/3 inning, he has a 1.23 ERA, which is just incredible. Uh, a left on base percentage of 100%, so he's leaving runners on base at a very high rate. And his Ks and walks per nine are not great. I mean, in the playoffs, he has his K per nine is 8.5, and then his walks per nine is 3.5. So definitely very interesting there. But he has been lights out for them. So Rangers then move on and are able to take game two, 5-3. Aroldis Chapman again gave up a couple runs. It was a little scary, but they were able to get out of it. So Shane, welcome back. I think the big takeaway so far from the ALCS is I'd like to talk about Jordan Montgomery's start in game one a little bit. Just kind of unpack that because I think that really set the tone for the Rangers and potentially for the rest of the series. I think it's really gonna, when we look back at this series, if the Rangers are able to win this in the next game or in the next 2 or 3 games, we'll look back at that start and really see that as the tone setter. So what do you kind of take away from that start?
I take away that Jordan Montgomery is a dog. You see that video? He's a dog.
He's a dog.
He goes out there and pitches. He doesn't have no dominant stuff. Doesn't have great stuff. Pitches. Doesn't throw that hard. Retrospectively to the pitchers in the league. But he goes out there and he knows what he's doing. Puts the ball where he wants it, and he gets I'm trying to out like that's what I like about it. That's really what I like.
Yeah. I loved the way that he attacked Yordan Alvarez in that game. Yordan Alvarez has been easily the best hitter in the postseason, which now after, in this series could potentially be Bryce Harper, but I would still take Yordan Alvarez right now. Jordan Montgomery was able to hold him to bat 0 for 4 with 3 Ks, 3 straight Ks. I mean, it was extremely impressive watching him kind of dissect Yordan. And after the game, Jeff Passan kind of asked Yordan, like, hey man, what happened? Why is he able to kind of do that? And so essentially what Yordan said, and then was kind of later dissected by Jeff Passan, was Yordan said that his curveball looks like his fastball. Super simple, but super difficult to achieve for a pitcher and extremely annoying for a hitter to pick up on. So essentially, he's a lefty, big guy. Really doesn't throw hard for his size. He's bigger than Justin Verlander height-wise and I believe weight-wise. But how his release point for his fastball and his release point for his curveball are extremely consistent. They release at almost the same spot every single time. And then in comparison to one another, and along with his changeup, the deviation is extremely minimal. And for most pitchers, it's pretty minimal, but there are some guys who are, a few degrees here and there, few inches here and there with different pitches. For Jordan Montgomery, it's even like cameras and all this technology that we have can hardly pick up the difference. So he's great about disguising his pitches and kind of how he has orchestrated his curveball to go. It really is just kind of a last second wipeout curveball, essentially. Just kind of at the last second dives out. So I love the way that he knows what he has and attacks hitters with that. He knows his strengths, knows his weaknesses, and is able to exploit the hitters with that in conjunction with understanding where the hitters' weaknesses and strengths are as well. So I just love the way that he went about that. I completely agree. He's a dog. He gets up there, he shoves, he gives you innings, low runs. I mean, he really is right now. I mean, I would say one of the most consistent pitchers in baseball right now. In terms of stuff, maybe not up there, but just what you'll get from him on a nightly basis is extremely impressive.
Yeah, and I just want to add that Jordan, if you go statistically off his career so far, is the best lefty hitter in history.
Oh, absolutely, he's incredible.
And Kyle Tucker, sure, I believe 1 and 2, he'll go guess over the career. So Jordan breaks lefty, and Jordan Montgomery said, "Screw that." I wanted more. Uh, than I think Max Scherzer, Scherzer in the playoffs.
Um, let's see. I was not quite able to hear you, Shane, there, but I believe I picked up on maybe transitioning. You were kind of mentioning Max Scherzer there. Yeah, I mean that's big news for the Rangers. Being able to get him back for the ALCS and and have him throw in Game 3, that's incredibly impactful. I don't think that we'll see a full vintage Scherzer outing. I don't think we'll see 7 or 8 runs, 2 earned runs, or 7 or 8 innings, 2 earned runs, 10 strikeouts. But I think that we do see. I hope that we see a strong 3 or 4 innings, and then they're able to kind of turn over to a bullpen. Essentially, like I think they'll treat this start by Max Scherzer as a kind of as a an opener type thing, like you would see maybe from the Rays or from the Dodgers on a down year. So I'm interested to see what his impact. I mean, obviously, mentally that he's going out there to compete and is going out there to win. So I'm interested to see kind of where his arm is at and how he kind of how he responds from that initial adrenaline pump in the first inning. Because that first inning, your adrenaline's going, you can't feel anything. I mean, you're just up there just throwing gas. So I'm interested to see how that second and third, potentially fourth or fifth inning kind of goes for him after he gets kind of past that initial adrenaline pump. But Shane, what do you think? Max Scherzer coming back. What's that impact look like for the Rangers? You know?
I mean, I think it's huge. I think this is a been there, done that kind of guy. Um, and I don't know if they're gonna be able to pull him. I don't know if they're gonna be taking him off the mound. Like you talk about opener. I can't
Yeah.
imagine that Scherzer is gonna be one to get taken off the mound. Like he's talk about a dog. That's the biggest dog in MLB history. They're gonna have to fight him to get him off the mound. And so I love watching him pitch. I'm fired up to watch him pitch against Christian Javier, another guy I really like
Yep.
watching. This matchup is going to be one I really like. And so the opener thing's interesting just because I talk about the Philadelphia Diamondbacks series. I really don't think there's any way that Diamondbacks come back. But this one,
Yeah.
the Astros are still very much in it for me. So
Yeah.
I can't imagine. It's tough for me to picture the Rangers handing a substantial amount of a game over to their bullpen, even as good as it's been during postseason.
Well,
So
and did they not
maybe he's
just
coming
get
back.
did they add John Gray to the ALCS lineup as well? Is John Gray back?
I do not know. I know obviously Dunning would be starting in this role, and I
Yep.
assume he'll be starting tomorrow.
Yeah, so
But
they did
I
add
have not
John Gray to the
heard.
ALCS roster. So that could add them a little bit more flexibility, maybe to go Dane Dunning and kind of do a dual kind of like a Scherzer 4, Dunning 3 type thing, and then kind of hand it over to your high leverage guys. So that would be interesting to see. Yeah.
You also have Heaney, who they've been using as those long.
Yes. Yep. And
Um,
he's been really good.
yeah, yeah, he is. So you may see a Scherzer Heaney combo get you through. I mean, 7 ideally. That would be great. Um, And then if Scherzer gets another chance to get the ball, he in the World Series, you're not pulling that man out of the game. The
No
best stuff
shot.
like his. That's why I love Scherzer. I've really idolized him since he's kind of, or since I've been watching. He's
Yep.
kind of at that Verlander and Kershaw level where he's been around. Obviously unanimous Hall of Famer. So he's good. He's got one under his belt, and so it'd be kind of cool to see him beat for another one.
It would be awesome. Um, yeah, so I guess I think we can make some predictions now. I think that I feel confident in saying that we both are going to take the Phillies in the NLCS. Am I correct?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that series is just I love the Diamondbacks. I was even rooting for the Diamondbacks, but it's overmatched. I mean,
Yeah. They're just not prepared, and hopefully we'll see them rebound next year and put in another strong season, but let's look at the ALCS. Who you taking to finish this one out?
This one's tough because now it goes back to Texas, but like I've been saying all year, you can never count the Astros out as much as I hate it.
Nope.
I do think the Rangers are going to pull it out. I don't know. I don't think they're going to. If I had to guess, I think they win it in five. I
Hmm.
think the Astros do take one in Texas, uh, but I would be really scared as a Rangers fan if even if they're up 3-2 or yeah, it'd be up three. No, wait. So it's 2-3-2. So they'd be up 3-1. Wait, 3-2. Excuse me. Sorry, I just had a mental lapse there. They're up 3-2, and it goes back to Houston. I would not be comfortable as a Rangers fan. So finish it in at home. Finish it at home. That is the key for the Rangers. Do not let it go back to Houston.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
I agree. I think I'm gonna take Texas as well, but I think it's gonna be in 6 games. I just think that Christian Javier, as much as I've kind of been down on him all year, I mean, look at what the Phillies have done. One strong start for Aaron Nola has transitioned into 2 extremely dominant starts after this. So I think I'm not saying that they lose tomorrow, but I think that Christian Javier has another great outing, and I think that the Astros are able to steal one on the road. I mean, they're really good on the road. So I think I'll take Rangers in 6. So Rangers and Phillies, Shane. Who you
do we
taking?
have to pick now? Is that what you're asking me?
We'll do a tentative pick right
Oh.
now.
Ah, dude, this is so tough. Tentatively, I would rather see the Rangers win just because get their first pennant ever. That would be cool.
Oh
But
yeah.
the Phillies look like the most dominant team right now. So I'd probably have to say Phillies, but I think it would go to 6. I think it'd be Phillies in 6. I can guess right now.
Oh, for my pick, this maybe a hot take, but
Uh, is the hat coming?
oh baby, you gotta ride with the Rangers the rest of the way. The Rangers are gonna take the World Series. They're bringing it back to Texas for the first time into Globe Life. They're gonna do it on the backs of Corey Seager and Marcus Simeon. Jordan Montgomery, 2 gems. I think it's gonna go to 6 games, and the Rangers will take it. So let's go.
I got a
Let's go,
question for you.
Rangers. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the home field advantage conversation is actually more interesting than I thought now looking at it. So if the Astros win and the Phillies win, due to head-to-head record, I believe. I'm for certain this is just the case, but I think it's due to head-to-head record. I wasn't sure. The article I read wasn't completely clear. The Phillies would have home field advantage if the Astros are who they're playing. The Rangers would have home field advantage if they play the Phillies, which makes it interesting because
Oh.
Citizens Bank is tough to play in. Texas is, I mean, I'm sure it's tough, not as quite as tough, but that would cater towards your pick, Drew.
I know that would be interesting. So
So I think that's a tough thing for the Phillies and Phillies fans. That's so interesting. All 3 of them have the same record. What are the chances of that happening? So, um, I just and yeah. So I think we've made all of our comments on that series.
yeah, I don't have too much to add there.
And before we kind of have the concluding section, we've kind of talked about it a little bit, but I do want to kind of go back to that Phillies Braves and kind of go to more of an off-field thing that happened. I want to talk about Attaboy Harper. That comment made by Orlando Arcia after the game that the Braves won, in which Harper was thrown out into double play by the Michael Harris after he made an incredible catch and threw him out at first. And in the locker room, it was confirmed by himself that he did say "Attaboy Harper" and started laughing due to Harper's base running, and it was caught by actually a journalist podcaster. I forgot his
Yes.
name.
It's I believe it was Jordan Schusterman. Let me double check that.
Actually, I thought it was Jake Mintz.
Yes, Jordan Schusterman is the other one. It's Jake. Yeah, Jake Mintz is yeah. So Jordan Schusterman and Jake Mintz, they host a podcast on Apple Podcasts together. I believe it's the Cespedes Barbecue. I think it's like the family barbecue or something. Great podcast. I listen to it every now and again. They're good. And then Jake Mintz also writes for Fox Sports. So
Yeah, it was an interesting comment, and it did it did get some backlash from the news world. I'm not remembering the name of the reporter, but it was a female reporter for MLB Network that went on a rant. Have you heard this rant, Drew?
yes, this was. I mean, I'll let you before I kind of go in on that. I'll let you kind of finish what you're saying, but I do have some opinions about that.
I just want to get the name of the reporter because I don't want to. Alana Rizzo, that was her
Yeah.
name. So she went on MLB Network and called these guys, use our language, jack-offs, and basically claimed they're
Direct
not
quote
real. Yes, direct quote.
on
Claimed
live TV.
they're not real reporters. They're inhibiting the experience of um, other reporters. And so I will read part of these quotes, and I'm going to read. It's a little bit extensive, but I think it is kind of relevant. She said, "And I'm so irritated with all these people, these bloggers or podcasters, and are not even reporters, not even journalists going into the clubhouse. You're ruining for the rest of us, guys that come in the postseason and don't have any clue of the pulse of the team. It's making it worse for the people that are there every single day covering this team on a daily basis. And then some jackoff comes in at the end of the season that gets a credential. God only knows why. And the clubhouse is a sacred space. And remember, I've been in the clubhouse for 16, 17 years. I remember I would go in there, get my job done, and get out. That is this space. That is their space. So if this idiot, for this idiot to go in there and take something out of context just to make him give himself a name is ridiculous. She's a jack off.
Yep.
It's whew. I don't even know how to approach this. Like, first of all, there's so many other ways to handle this, even if you are upset about this. Going on TV and calling these guys a jack off is just unacceptable, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I guess I'll put my input on it and then just let you do it. But obviously, I think it's fine. I do think, there are non-media parts of the clubhouse. Do I think it was a mistake for Arcia to say this? Yes, I don't think it was as big of a deal as people took. I think Bryce Harper was just using it as fuel. Like, he was finding something to give himself fuel. Fine. I have no problem with Harper staring through him. Arcia didn't handle it bad until the fans chirping at him, which I don't think that's that big of a deal. It's not like Anthony Rendon where he went and fought the dude. Like, I don't think it was as big of a deal as people made it up to be. I think the biggest deal is probably Travis d'Arnaud, like, saying the comments he did about how the sacred space, the sacredness of the locker room and stuff like that. I think that really made it into a bigger deal than it was. I'm not going to per se criticize d'Arnaud for that, but I don't know if that was the approach I would have taken per se. I think the whole thing was blown out of proportion. These guys, first of all, this guy works for MLB for Fox, so he's not just some damn podcaster. Excuse my language, but like, it's ridiculous from that standpoint. And these people, she's just ignorant for saying this. I just have to put it that. I know that. I'm sure I haven't really paid attention to her stuff. I don't know her stuff. I'm sure she does her job well. She's been in the industry for the past 16 to 17 years. But to go on air and make these comments is outrageous. These guys are probably more popular than her at this point. MLB Network's coming somewhat not irrelevant, but the podcast is and the media portion of things are I would say how the majority of people and especially young viewers get their news in baseball. So that's how I take this. I'll hand the mic over to you, Drew.
Yeah, it's just incredibly unprofessional of her. As she stated, she's been in this business 16, 17 years in and out of clubhouses. And like, that's just I can't understand. Like, we aren't professional journalists, we aren't professional news people, me and you, like, but I mean, we know better than to get on air or get on our tiny our platform and publicly shame somebody like this. Like this guy, I've listened to his podcast. I haven't read his articles, but he is a professional guy. He understands the game. He played it professionally and amateur and as an amateur for a short while. I mean, he's great. He loves the game. He's all about spreading love of the game. He's close friends with what's his name? This has nothing to do with it. The ex-reliever for Virginia, who's now does college
Steven
baseball.
Scotch.
Him and Steven Scotch, they're good buddies. Steven Scotch is an incredible dude as well. Does a great job covering the game. These guys are awesome at what they do. They make the game relatable, digestible, and interesting to a younger audience, and in a way that MLB Network has failed to do time after time. MLB Network is just failing on a level that's kind of unheard of in sports, I guess. Like they're really the only other comparable would be like the kind of NHL in the popular American sports and kind of the failure of coverage. And part of that is to blame for ESPN and kind of their refusal to cover major baseball stories extensively, to kind of refuse to hire big name baseball personalities and stuff like that. But yeah, for Rizzo to get up there and do this, like that's just unacceptable. I like no, in no way should you ever say something like this. And I get that she had a lot of hoops that she had to jump through, and as kind of a woman coming up in that industry, like it obviously wasn't easy, and she probably had to deal with a bunch of stuff that she didn't want to, she shouldn't have had to, and didn't want to deal with. But that's no excuse for, what her actions and how she chose to kind of call out this guy. I mean, it's almost kind of like it's kind of like a like fraternity, like how they do like the hazing and kind of the ritual stuff, and then after so often, like when somebody tells their parent and the fraternity gets in trouble, like, well, just because this was done to you doesn't mean that you should be doing it to other people, or doesn't mean that other people should be going through it. Like, we shouldn't be normalizing like that type of behavior. Like, and not saying that there was anything wrong or anything like that happened, but he was completely within his route. He had the proper credentials. He was in the clubhouse during open interviews. It's absolutely on Orlando Arcia for saying that when there are reporters in the vicinity. You should understand. These guys are listening, especially like a guy like Jake Mintz, who's more of a national guy, not a Braves coverage guy, is going to be looking for a big story, and that's a big story. I have no problem with the way the Phillies handled it. They took it personally, they used it to motivate themselves. My gripe is with my Atlanta Braves. It seems that everything that they have done from a mindset standpoint outside of Spencer Strider and Austin Riley have just been completely wrong. They've been pushed around, they've been bullied, they just look unprepared. They looked unprepared against this Philly teams. And if Harper and the Phillies are gonna, Deion Sanders, oh, it's personal now and all that, offer a little silly comment that Orlando Arcia has, like, and then you just let them do that to you, like that's absolutely unacceptable. Like if you see, like, these guys are on social media, these guys are in the stadium, they saw that, and you're just gonna let that happen. Orlando Arcia is just gonna let Bryce Harper stare him down. I'm a little bit of an old school guy, and I'm not saying that they should have hit Harper, but like, if I'm Orlando Arcia and Harper's gonna stare me down like that, like I'm gonna say something back. Like there's got to be something's got to light a fire under you. Something's got to kind of get you going, and the Braves had a perfect opportunity. The Phillies had decided to take something probably taken out of context and was really not a big deal, and they made it a big deal, and the Braves had potential to respond and kind of assert themselves as the better team, and instead they let the Phillies motivate themselves over a meaningless comment. And so like it's really on the Braves. I disagree with how Travis Darno handled that. Locker rooms are a sacred space, but media people are allowed in there, and they're allowed to ask questions. They're allowed to listen. They're allowed to report. So if I get that from the player's perspective, but there's no reason for you to say that. Like if I'm Travis Darno, I'm like, yeah, man, like we said that, and it was taken out of context, but we allowed them to use that to motivate themselves, and we got slapped in the face, and we didn't respond. We didn't motivate ourselves. So you know, it just seems like the Braves, just from a mentality standpoint, were just absent. So that's kind of what I have to say on that. I'm disappointed in Rizzo for those comments, but even more disappointed in the Braves and how they handled that situation.
Yeah, I mean the Braves were just in the wrong headspace from the beginning. I don't. I
Exactly.
mean, you can make excuses about the break. You can make excuses about
Got to
how
show up and
old.
play.
Yeah, I mean the Orioles, Dodgers, it did the same thing to them, and that's a conversation that can't be had. Um, I guess now that we have a little extra time, I want to move on that and ask a question that hopefully doesn't go too long. But with that break that everybody's been talking about, I've been kind of brainstorming, and I have either one of two ways to kind of appeal to baseball fans with that break to try to keep the advantage of the higher seed, uh, kind of taking away the momentum. And so I would either propose that they give 1 day's rest after the ALDS is done, and that's it. Because I think I can't remember, is it 2 to 3 days that the Rangers had, and this is the series going to use the Rangers, Baltimore had, and they were able to reset the rotation, and that's kind of the advantage that having that bye has, is that the other team's rotation is used up. And so really theoretically there wasn't really an advantage. I mean, they had Montgomery and Evaldi going right away. So if you have 1 day off, you're gonna have to use Dunning in that first game, and then you'll have to roll out so I think that's more of an advantage. That's the first proposed. Or you reseed. So and it would stay the same in this scenario, but the Orioles would be facing the lowest seed, who would have been the Rangers. I understand that. And so you reseed it so they face the lower seed instead of determining before who they're going to play. I lean towards the first one. Do you have any
Yeah,
thoughts on either of those?
absolutely. I lean towards the first one. Reseeding, like what that's stupid. Like, you know who you're going to play. You know the potential matchups. You should be prepared. You should be ready to play. I understand the momentum. I understand that you're a little rusty, but there's no excuse after game one not to show up and play. And that's exactly what the Braves, Orioles, and Dodgers did. They were absent from first pitch to last pitch. They didn't show up. They didn't want to play. The Orioles did show a little bit of fight in their series, but I mean, the Dodgers getting swept by the Diamondbacks is unacceptable. I understand that your pitching staff is down, but you still got a potential top 5 1-2 punch batting order in all of history with Mookie Betts and Ronald Acuna. They went a combined 1 for 21. That's abysmal. That's unacceptable from your two of the best hitters in the sport. Guys that are going to finish 2-3 in MVP voting this year. So I don't like that the reseeding mess. Like, you got to show up and play, and historically the higher seeds, the teams with buys, have generally had more success in the playoffs. So this is sort of a new phenomenon, and I think we're just seeing kind of a older veteran teams which are winning less in the regular season getting matched up against young, hot, big winners in the regular season teams. Like, the Orioles and Braves are a younger team. The Phillies are pretty veteran oriented, as well as the Rangers. So I think this is kind of a few-year phenomenon, and I think it'll kind of reset back to the norm where higher seeds have more success. But yeah, I don't think we need to really change anything, I'll be honest.
You don't think it's necessary to shorten the
I mean, yeah, if anything, like I would go with your first option, but there doesn't need to be anything drastic like reseeding or anything like that.
I can agree with that. I actually am in strong favor of the first option. Just because I do think it is a little unfair to have, not unfair, but it does take away the advantage if you could reset your pitching. I know it depends on when the ALDS series may end at different times, but it doesn't really matter if you start the ALCS. Those teams are ready to go. So just a conversation. Something that we can all play around with. But yeah. So are you ready for your trivia question, Drew, before we end this
I
thing?
am ready. I'm ready.
So I guess kind of a little two-parter. I want you to name the historical retired player that has the most postseason home runs, and he is the leader of all time and then the current player who leads in postseason home runs.
So the historical retired player is Manny Ramirez, and then the current player is Jose Altuve.
I must be asking questions that you see on Twitter or something, because this is ridiculous.
Jared Carabas was talking about this on the most recent Baseball is Dead podcast. So I was listening to that earlier today while I was at work, and they mentioned that.
Okay, well, can you tell me the amount of home runs they each have?
Oh, let's see. I think Altuve is at. I believe they're tied now. I think it's
Manny
19,
Ramirez and
I think it's 19 or 20.
for both of them is what you're saying?
Yeah, I think that they both are sitting at 19 or 20. I can't remember the exact number, but it's somewhere in that vicinity, I feel like.
So what I would say is that they're both in the 20s, and Manny Ramirez actually has 5 more home runs than Jose.
Oh, does he
Altuve
really?
does.
Okay. So I would say what Manny's at 27 and Altuve's at 22.
That's close. At this point, it's not. You got the trivia question, so shout out to you. But Manny Ramirez has 29.
Okay.
Jose Altuve has 24.
Okay.
And the reason this came up is because Kyle Schwarber just hit his 18th, tying Reggie Jackson for the most postseason home runs by a left-hander, which is kind of a random record, but kind of cool. So good job, Drew. I will have to find some really
quick note before we go. It is game 3, sorry, and Houston is up 3-0. They just put up 3 runs in the second inning on Max Scherzer. Let me check that real fast. Yes, so Scherzer's given up 3 runs on 2 hits, 1 walk, and 2 Ks through 2 complete innings. So something to keep an eye on for the rest of the night if how short Scherzer's leash is. And that was what I said, I think you missed this, but let's see how he does after that initial adrenaline pump, and he's given up 3 runs, so we'll see how he rebounds.
It must have been a bomb if it's on 2 hits.
So what happened was Yordan Alvarez got hit by a pitch. Jose Abreu strikes out. Kyle Tucker walks. Mauricio Dubon singles, which loads the bases. Then Jeremy Pena pops up to second. A wild pitch by Max Scherzer. Yordan scores. And then Martin Maldonado singles, and it was deflected by Josh Jung. So that allowed Mauricio Dubon to score from second. However, Martin Maldonado was out trying to advance to second by left fielder Evan Carter.
Seems like a real...
To Jonah Heim, so they threw home, and then on the throw home, Martin Maldonado tried to advance to second, and Jonah Heim threw him out. So a little bit interesting. So
it's a crazy
Max Scherzer
situation.
seems to be a little wild, a walk and a hit by pitch and a wild pitch. So see if he's able to settle down.
Crazy scenario, crazy stuff going on in the
all with 2
Lone
outs
State.
too.
But we'll be back next Wednesday. Hopefully it lines up well where we can kind of get some more information out, and maybe even a World Series. By then we'll know who's playing in the World Series.
Yep.
And get you some preview for the World Series. And it likely we only have 2 more episodes in this playing season before we get some off-season episodes. Yeah.
Crazy to think about. All righty. Well, thank you everyone for listening. We appreciate it. Share, email us, DM us questions, comments, concerns, all that goodness. Tell your friends, let everybody know about us. But we just want to thank y'all for listening. We had a lot of fun today. So we'll see y'all next week.
Peace.